Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the LitRPG podcast. I'm Ramon Mejia. I'm here to bring you the latest LitRPG news, reviews, and of course, author interviews. This week I have 4 new reviews for you folks at home, and that's going to include several new titles, including Shadowsun Progression, Shadowsun book number 4 in that particular series. Then we also have Planet Hero Civilian, and after that, it'll be Noah in the Flesh, Road of the Change, book number 3. And the last but not least, Demon of Dreadnaught, World of the Dreadnaught series. So there we go. Before we get into that, of course, we have to go into LitRPG news. And in LitRPG news, we're going to begin with some congratulations to some folks in the Independent Audiobook Award finalist. We have several LitRPG authors and narrators and titles in these series, including for Best Audio Drama, we have Monster Hunter NYC, written by Harmon Cooper and performed by Jeff Hayes and Annie Ellicott. Also in the 2020 finalists for the Independent Audio Awards, we have an entire section dedicated to just LitRPG and GameLit. And everything there is LitRPG GameLit. It actually is. We have Firebrand, written by J.D. Astra, and James Hunter, performed by Emily Wu Zeller. We have Siphon, A Touch of Power, book number 1, written by Jay Boyce. We also have Somnia Online Dissidents, written by Katie Hanna, performed by Andrea Parsnow. We have War of the Macreal, written by Don Chapman, performed by Andrea Parsnow. And then we have Roll Tree Online, written by E.A. Cooper, performed by Justin Thomas James, Jeff Hayes, and Lori Catherine Winkle. So a bunch of great, good LitRPG stories and audiobooks in there for you guys to enjoy. This year's Independent Audio Awards is going to be done on the internet. So it's not going to be a live event this year, so we won't be attending like we did last time, unfortunately, which is so sad because it was so fun to go last year. But hopefully we know some good LitRPG game like people are going to win something, so we can enjoy that at least. Okay, in other LitRPG news, we have a few LitRPG sales this week, not quite as many as last week, and that includes Borrow King Realms, book number 1, which is still 99 cents. Sentence Control, the last time I checked, was 99 cents still, and that's in book 2 in that series. Book 1 in the Amarillo series was 99 cents again the last time I checked. We also have Legends Online Universe box sets, book number 1 through 4, the entire box set is 99 cents as well. And of course, as always, if you want to look for something cheap or free, just do a search in the Amazon box for LitRPG, but organize it from cheapest to highest. You'll see all the free books, all the stuff that's 99 cents right now. And so you can, nice place to browse, but you can get a kind of a mix of actual LitRPG stories, just stuff that's being tagged by the authors as being it. So there you go. Okay, on to stuff that is out now. Stuff that's come out recently, haven't had a chance to read it, but it is out for you to enjoy, and that includes the 8th book in the Good Guys series called Eastbound and Town, one of my favorite series. We also have Mage Blood, Mephisto's Magic Online, book number 1, written by Christopher John, so that's a new series from him. We also have Prime Burst, Dose of Chaos, the 2nd book in that particular series. We also have Undone, Resurrection of Murdoch, a fantasy LitRPG series. And we also have A Snake's Life, book number 1. I wasn't sure if this was actually going to be LitRPG because the novel description isn't 100% clear, but just looking at it, it looks like it's an evolutionary kind of monster story. So, and there are actually notifications of like levels of monsters and things. So looks like it very well. But plus it's being published by Shadow Alley Press. So they know their LitRPG. Also out now for you to enjoy is Awaken Online Flame, the 2nd book in the Tarot series. And Card Mage Academy Rebels by Eden Red, and also Silver and Fox, The Western Hero, a Warrior Forge, the 2nd book in that series, and also for you folks who are enjoying the Civ CEO series, this is the 3rd book in the series out for you to enjoy right now. So there we go. In audiobooks, there's actually quite a few audiobooks for you guys right now, and that includes Adventure Academy, book number 1, Shattered World, Sword, by T.J. Reynolds. This was an interesting one in that the audiobook is out now. The ebook won't be out for 6 weeks as a pre-order, so you can listen to it now. And for once, you audiobook listeners actually get to enjoy an audiobook before the ebook even hits the store. So there you go. Also out is Afterlife Online. The 6th book in the Stonehaven League series is out as an audiobook called Throne of the Ancients. And the first book in the World of Change series is out as an audiobook. We are reviewing the third book in that series on the show this week as an ebook, but the audiobook version of the first book is out now for you to enjoy. Also, Farmer Light Online series book number 1 is out as an audiobook. This is a very crafting centric kind of story. So just be aware of that. If you like crafting, you like that kind of town building style, community building, you might really enjoy this one. I like the ebook version. I haven't listened to the audiobook, but I know I enjoyed the ebook. Okay, on to stuff that is coming up in the near future. This is just where I read off a list of stuff that I have pre-orders for, or authors have let me know that things are coming out. On April the 9th, it'll be Dungeon World book number 5. April the 10th, it'll be Expedition Noob, Sun and Shadow Online book number 2. April the 10th, it'll be Street Cultivation book number 2 in that series by Sarah Lynn. April the 14th, it'll be Watcher's Test. April the 20th, the third book in the After Apocalypse series, Dungeon Perdition. We also have a new book from Don Chapman and the folks at Mountain Door Press, Winter Harvest, on April the 24th. We have the Rogue Dungeon book number 4 out on April 28th. The fourth book in the Discardium series is out on April 29th. The third book in the Player Reaches the Top series out on April 29th as well. April the 30th, Legends Online book number 5. May the 1st, the Archemi Online Chronicle series, book number 4. May the 5th, the Blood Crown, book number 2. Gloominess Plus 4 will be out on May 17th. Glory Affirmation Emperor, book number 4 will be out on May 31st. The author of Legendary Dungeon Seed has asked us to put his book up. Written by Mark Robert. It is out in May sometime. According to the author, he doesn't have a release date yet. June the 4th, the 9th book in the Good Guy series will be out for you to enjoy. And June the 9th, it'll be the 6th book in the Reality Bender series, another favorite series of mine. July the 1st, System Apocalypse book number 9 will be out for you to enjoy. July the 8th, the second book in the Project Stellar series. July 31st, it'll be Arrows of Justice, book 1 of the Vindicators 2.0 series. So there we go, folks. All the stuff that I know it's coming out in the near future onto the actual new releases and reviews. Okay, in new releases and reviews, folks, we have Shadow Sun Progression. This is the fourth book in the Shadow Sun series, written by Dave Wolmar. That is 321 pages, $4.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. And here's the author's description. Alistair, now both a planetary prince of birth and an emperor of Orion, faces a new set of challenges. Though was completely unprepared into the realm of interplanetary politics, he must navigate the pitfalls of dealing with more powerful races and factions. At the same time, he strives to continue his mission to strengthen the human race, to bring other survivors into the fold and claim as much of the Earth as possible for humans. Class trainers must be found if his people are to have a proper chance to grow and thrive. Hard choices have to be made. New and deadly enemies surface and friends are lost. Alistair's acquisition of a particular artifact places a target squarely on his back, and behind it all, the Ancient Ones continue to meddle in Earth's affairs. Okay, full disclosure, I received an advance copy for review. I purchased a copy when it became available. This is an easy review. This series has always been fun, interesting, and it's been entertaining. I never really have to think about, are the game mechanics going to get off base, or is this going to go weirdly? It's always an entertaining action adventure story. It's a little slice of life everything, but there's always nice progression. There's always nice development in the base building, community building aspects of the story. And as the series progressed, of course, it's gotten a little more away from the initial apocalypse, post-apocalypse kind of theme, and expands into more of like rebuilding humanity and dealing with aliens and fighting and everything. But it's still very entertaining. Book 4 is fun. The story is getting more expansive, as are the case with a lot of Dave Wolmar stories. The main character, again, is dealing with a galactic scale problems and dealing with alien species from off planet now. And as the novel trades and talked about other issues, yet at the same time, the story has kind of kept my interest in like the main character and his core group by creating these little personal stories that keep you interested, keep you invested, and keep you caring about them. And should some of them die, it does become quite touching because you've cared about them for so many books now. All around, it's always a good series for me. It gets a score of 7.7 out of 10. That's a good review score for me. Enjoyed it quite a bit. That's Shadow Sun Progression, Shadow Sun book number 4, with the score 7.7 out of 10. Next, we have Planet Hero Civilian, written by M.A. Carlson. This is 247 pages, $2.99. It is available on Kindle Unlimited, and here's the author's description. Welcome to Planet Hero. Attention civilians, in the event of superhero on villain battling, seek immediate shelter. And if a villain decides to kidnap you, hold you hostage, or attempts to rob or kill you, please remain calm. Heroes will arrive shortly. Thank you for your support. Dr. Davis Mallory never planned to become a hero or a villain. He never planned on obtaining superpowers. He certainly never planned on being transported to a world filled with such people, and he most definitely did not consider that he would have to become one if he ever wanted to find a way back to Earth. But Planet Hero doesn't care what Davis wants. If he wants to survive everything that is about to be thrown at him, he'll have to cultivate his superpowers and learn to navigate this new world, or going home will be the least of his worries. Davis's days as a civilian are officially over. So there, and there's a small disclaimer saying this contains LitRPG game novel, gaming elements and rules. So there you go. That wants to make sure you know this is still LitRPG or Gimlet Tam. Full disclosure: I received advanced copy for review. I purchased a copy when it became available. This is quite simply a story that combines superhero powers with RPG progression elements, mostly based in what the author is describing as cultivation. I'll get into in a second. A good portion of the story, it really just a fun slice of life exploration of this world, the superhero world, some nice training of superpowers, and cultivation. The end has a bit more of that focused story with a nice stream of action that kind of definitely makes it an enjoyable story. The RPG stuff amounts to heroes in this world cultivating or gathering nanos from the environment or from their kills to increase their stats. So this rule bases its superhero abilities off like this cosmic or this worldwide event where nanites were released into the entire world. And so all the animals started to mutate, all the plant life started to mutate, and humans did as well. There's like a sharp decline in humans as none of them survived the process, but those that did got superpowers of one variety or the other, and they can increase those superpowers and their strength by gathering nanites or nanos to them through cultivation. And I use the term cultivation loosely here because it's not the same kind of cultivation you're going to see in Wuxia stories necessarily, or Zanzia stories. It's essentially a kind of meditation and gathering of nanites using different ways of communicating with your nanites. So it's a unique kind of thing. And the amount of nanites that you can gather determine how much energy. So killing strong monsters gives you more nanites. But of course, that's essentially a correlation to experience points from strong monsters. And there are notifications in the story so you can see what level of monsters you have, what level the enemies are, their actual levels here in the story. So there is actual RPG progression also tied into the story, plenty of notifications, plenty of power progression systems where it's like, oh, you can decide where to put your new points into for each level into whatever stats you have. And there are described stats that have relations to physical powers versus like the hero powers, energy powers, defense, strength, all the good stuff. So there's plenty of like, stat progression and planning and stuff that's here. But that's how the RPG progression kind of works. The cultivation part is probably the part I have had the biggest issue of accepting. It just felt out of place to me when I think of a superhero world that's tech nano infused. It kind of didn't make sense in my brain of cultivation, which to me has like this mystical tone or magical tone, working instinctively with like tech-based nanites. But that is the system the author uses, and eventually I got used to it. I would have preferred to see other things, like maybe some weird passive absorption with an opportunity to increase it. That's kind of what this ends up being in the end. But it took me a little while to kind of get used to and to just kind of not necessarily like super love it, but like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. It makes sense. The author thought this through. But it took a little while, especially mostly after like the really big training session in the middle of the story where the main character finally gets some details on how to do different cultivation techniques, or different ways to gather nanites. I actually prefer the way that the main character does it in using his particular superhero powers as kind of a cheat to gather more nanos. That was a better, in my brain, use of those abilities to gather nanos. So there you go. It's one of the small things that bother me. Didn't ruin the story in any way, shape, or form, but when it's like, oh, that takes a little while to get used to. Story-wise, it's very entertaining. It really is. If you enjoy the superhero genre, that is the caveat. If you don't like superheroes, if you don't like superhero stories, that's what this is. So you got to be aware of that. There were definitely jokes in this story that kind of poke fun at the superhero culture. And there's a nice little bit of world building about how this alternate dimension got its superpowers, and hints that there's kind of darker tones to this world that show up on the surface. There's good action, good dialogue. The main character has very reasonable responses that make you kind of empathize with his quandary of what he wants to do with his powers in a system. In this situation he'd never really wanted. The villains, however, when they're introduced eventually, are a little disappointing. They're very much like cartoon villains or Disney villains in that they do bad things, but they almost, at least the ones that we described here, don't really kill in this story. They don't even really curse. So I suspect that there are harsher villains and more murderous villains, and there are darker tones for future books potentially. But here the villains are just kind of there as just regular antagonists, which is fine. Overall, though, it's a good read. It is a good rather, and I look forward to picking up book number 2. Gets a score of 7.4 out of 10 for me. That's Planet Hero Civilian with a score of 7.4 out of 10. And next up we have Noah in the Flesh, World of the Change, book number 3, written by Vasily Mahinko. It is 405 pages, $6.99. It is not available on Kindle Limited as this recording. Here's the author's description. The world have changed, still going strong. A sister kidnapped a powerful enemy right around the corner, and Earth under the thumb of the monsters. What else is it going to take to become a true hero and save humanity? The only problem is that Mark Derwin has bigger problems. Focus says he is on finding Squirrel, his sister, and he has to make sure she's still the same person she always was rather than a chunk of Noah. He's prepared to do anything, go to any lengths to make that happen, including working with the game, but not with the game owner. Mark has quite the litany of questions for that character. Okay, full disclosure, I received advance copy for review. I purchased a copy when it became available. Wow, I was genuinely surprised that there was an actual conclusion to this arc in this book. This could actually be an end of the series, and I think it would really be okay. Like, all the big plot points are answered, all the issues with the sister, the plot line with like the game on Earth, all the bad guys, all that's resolved by the end of this third novel rather. I thought it was going to be stretched out for at least 2 or 3 more books, but turns out this is just the end of the first arc, and the story does end with potentiality for other books in the series, the same character. But this big, huge arc with the Earth, it is finished by the end of the story. I'm not going to tell you how it ends. Could be good, could be bad, but I'm not going to spoil that for you. But it is a good resolution, and there are twists right up to the very end, which is very much par for the course for Vasily Mahinko book. So there you go. I thought it was a great ending for this particular arc. Gives it a score at 8 out of 10. Lots of great action, lots of great adventure, lots of fighting, RPG progression stuff, stats galore, up and down. So lots of good progression there. So I thought it was a great ending. Get Noah in the Flesh, World of the Change, book number 3, with a score of 8 out of 10. But again, you definitely have to have read the preceding books to really appreciate how good this one actually is. So there you go. Again, that's a Noah in the Flesh with a score of 8 out of 10. And next we have Demon of Dreadnaught, World of the Dreadnaught series, written by Daniel Rogers. It is 110 pages-ish. Actually, I don't really know. Amazon isn't showing the actual page count. The author says it is a novella, though. It is $4.39. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. Here's the author's description. At 14, he was just seconds too late to save his sister. Andrew, chronically abused by his mother, will get justice for the only person in the world he could count on. He'll follow the killer into hell, becoming a demon himself. What no one expected was that hell and the mythical worlds beyond operated by strict RPG rules. Experience an epic without luck, where stats and items are the true measure of power. Can Andrew exploit the unfamiliar laws to get revenge? Can he get enough power to escape hell? There is hidden lore, time travel, sex horror, and deep magic in the world of Dreadnaught. The author also wanted me to mention to you that he has a Patreon account, so we can go support him there, get a bunch of freebies, and also this is a serial story. So there we go. Full disclosure, I've received an advanced copy for review. I purchased a copy when it became available. This is a RPG novella, the first book in a plain serial released by the author. And while future stories may improve, this one didn't work for me at all. I did not enjoy most of it. I'd say like 80% of it I didn't really like. The first half of the story felt like it had absolutely nothing to do with LitRPG or Gamelet, as it takes place in the modern world and incorporates a demonic murder spree. It honestly felt more like an urban fantasy story than anything. It was a kind of a total turn off for me. The second half of the story, things do take a turn towards LitRPG as the main character is sent to hell, where as a half-demon, he finds that he can possess items to gain new skills and level up as he siphons off negative emotions from the other demons around him. I actually thought it was an interesting game mechanic, one that I hadn't quite seen in this form before. It reminded me of the Discardy series, where that's a turn-based game where like you play a little demon lord and you can level up your items by going in there and beating a bunch of monsters and finding qualifications or satisfying particular scenarios. And as your items increase, you increase in power and your level does. So it reminded me of that kind of mechanic a little bit. Unfortunately, that's the only thing I liked about the story. The actual story didn't really make sense to me, and it didn't really go anywhere. And part of that may be the fact that this is intended to unfold as more of the serial was released. Like that first half of the story to me just doesn't connect. For me, I could almost like skip to the second half and I probably would have enjoyed it a little bit more. But I'm just guessing that the author has like plans that are going to be callbacks to the first part of the series, the first part of the story, and make a lot more sense as the series goes on potentially. I'm not really sure, but I'm hoping that it is. But as of now, it just doesn't make sense, and it doesn't really feel like a lot of progress. It feels like at some point in the story, the author's like, I'm just going to cut it off right here, and I'll continue on to be continued. And it just wasn't satisfying, even as an ending in this first little nugget of the serial. So overall, aside from that one game mechanic, I just didn't like the majority of the novella. So for me, it gets an actual score of 4 out of 10. I actually disliked a lot of the story. That's Demon of Dreadnaught, World of Dreadnaught series. It is LitRPG, but most of the story just wasn't really enjoyable for me. So it gets a score of 4 out of 10. Hey everybody, thanks a lot for hanging out with me today. That's it for the show. All the reviews are finished. Remember that you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, Patreon, and our website at litrpgpodcast.com. Plenty of places to hang out with us. If you want to find out all the ways you can support the podcast, you can go to litrpgpodcast.com/support. Help keep the podcast free, ad-free. For you folks at home, there are plenty of ways to help support us and keep the lights on around here for the podcast. But again, thanks for hanging out with me. I know it's a challenging time for everybody. I'm happy to put out this podcast, as all the previous ones are, for free. You can always find the back catalog of our work. We're up to 220 episodes. You have hours, hundreds of hours of podcasts to listen to if you want to, including great author interviews. If you just go to our website at litrpgpodcast.com, we're going to have it organized where you can look at just the stuff you want to, or just all that long, super long back catalog, and enjoy it. But until we can hang out again, ladies and gentlemen, remember to go read some LitRPG. Goodbye, everybody.